Welcome back to BLOCKTV. It's time now for Traders Take, and on a day when markets are certainly slumping after the nice climb we saw back above 10,000 for Bitcoin earlier in the week, today we're hovering back down around the middle of the $9,000 mark. This roller coaster seems unable to find clear direction, so to help us figure it all out, joining us in a special visit from Las Vegas, our very own technical analyst, Joe Saz, in the great city there. Joe, you having a ball in Vegas?
I'm having a ball, Asher.
Well, I'm glad to hear, but I think it's more appropriate than ever that you're there on a day when it seems that investing in crypto markets it seems to be an absolute gamble. You never know what's going to go up, what's going to go down. Or were you able to predict this sudden dip and drop, Joe?
Well, I was actually able to predict this. I did set up my stops publicly at 10,050 and 9,999 to stagger my way out on the off chance that, you know, that we had the strong confluence of bullish indicators, the golden cross and the 4-hour TD9. It was clearly a strong confluence of bullish indicators that I was willing to take a bet on against the fundamentals, which is the order book. But I would like to jump into the order book and explain what I think is going on. And I think, you know, this is a pretty new product, but this is almost exactly what I would categorize as a dead cat bounce, where we have, in our run-ups, we did create some beautiful moves into 10K, but you can see these pockets we created where sellers started to control the territory. And, especially near the tops and the local tops, I think bulls had been overextended for a little while. Obviously, I'm not happy to report on that, but we came down, hit a 94 and change low. One thing I did want to note as well, in this one candle downside move, we had, I think it was about, I'm trying to just, 2.37 move down with 96 million in short and longs liquidated, okay? Now, we fast forward over here, between these next couple candles, we have, only 10 mil. Here's the 107 mil. So we probably have around 110 mil or so. So between these two downside moves, we're talking 200 million long liquidations. It's massive. So we still had, wild bullish activity going on in the market, but this entire time that we were doing this, what I believe to be a dead cat bounce, we were moving up into resistance with absolutely no support along the way. A very small pocket of support in the 1% band here, which created a short-term low, and then, we just moved into a space that bulls were just couldn't hold. They were clearly exhausted. Sellers pretty much had constant control of what I would consider the buyer bedrock inversely, if buyers had this 5% band. But here we go, falling off a cliff. And I think this is to sellers. I'm not looking for a news article in this. I believe the psychology has more to do with 10K being a confirmed top and this being a clear dead cat bounce. I don't think that this is going to be too long-term of a move. We do still have that bullish crossover, the golden cross on the daily, which we'll get to in just a second. But for now, I cannot say I'm bullish on the fundamentals. The order book is still weak. Even finding this bottom and clearing up these bands, we had an obvious bullish control of what I like to call the buyer bedrock. But look, we're just, fading away. I think bulls are losing hope and bears are probably stacking the book. So that's causing this ratio to decrease and causing these bands to really get darker. So I'm not very confident that this is a bottom. I think we could be going lower. Right now, my target's around 92 to 8,800. And I don't want to put 8,200 on the table just yet, but it's there. Only because I think that would cause a lot of damage to the market and it would take weeks to reverse this whole process, to break down, to take time to break down, to consolidate, and to rebuild, to find a new price discovery and start stacking, bulls on top of each other saying, all right, yeah, this is clearly, this is just a shakeout, whatever they want to justify this as. But I still think that it's going to take bulls time, in whatever the case is, to build confidence.
Right.
So
certainly, I just want to pause there because certainly it does look like there's some momentum taken out of the market, but I sort of want to look slightly further afield, a little longer in towards the halving. I mean, we're standing now at late February. The halving's in May. I mean, what do we expect this to? How do we expect this to play out in relation to that? Will there be a direct sort of relationship, or will it be a sort of delayed onset effect in the wake of the halving, as we've seen sometimes in previous halvings?
Well, that's why I'm hoping that the reaction to this isn't the most bearish case scenario, because I do believe we have such a strong external variable that could be driving the market. Of course, the halvings, it's not just around the corner, but it's certainly coming up. And I think that that is probably a large part of the reason why we've been grinding up, like even though the daily moves might have been looking, let's take a look at the daily, here's the 4 hour. Here's the daily, we've been really grinding up. It's been, 5% moves. I think maybe a high of 8% or so, somewhere along here. And I could be wrong. Here it is, 8.9. So even within these daily moves, it's been a grind. So bulls have been throwing everything they have at this. For a short term, reversal, I just, the halvening in play, it's still money coming out of the pockets of people that know what the heck a halvening even is, or a halving, whatever, right? So I still think this is a relatively isolated community event. And I am getting calls about, should I be buying Bitcoin, or, how do I buy Bitcoin? But no one cares about the halvening except us, people that are familiar with
Mm.
the space. So I still think that that money is isolated money, but Bitcoin performing well is going to draw outside investors. Of course, a pullback is going to affect that. Probably going to piss a lot of people off who bought 10K. Some noobs that bought 10K Bitcoin, but I'm really hoping that this is a very short-lived bear market because of that external variable you discussed. If we can really recover here within the next 3 days, bottom out somewhere around 92 would be very reasonable. We did hit a low of like 93.60. Here we clearly see a low of 93.18 reported by this is Bitcoin US dollar on BitMEX. So this is an aggregated data here. So we did hit a low of 93.18. I really think that a 9200 target's fair. And it might be a great buying opportunity. I'll be paying attention, hopefully, to the book at that point in time. But we should be able to recover pretty quickly from this.
All right, then I want to switch the conversation to that of market dominance, sort of bringing the alts into play here, because I mean this is an important question. We were seeing, Bitcoin like slashed in market dominance as an alt season was taking hold in early 2020, but in the last week or so, it seems that narrative could be shifting, at least in the short term. So I suppose I ask you, Joe, is that a reversal of trends? Is alt season over, or is it too early to tell?
I think it's too early to tell, but I'm not really ready to subscribe to the fact that alt season is even on yet, because we've really only had a couple isolated moves that have caused serious upside, market action, 100%, like BSV, for example, a 142% move, whatever it was, 144. And that's more likely due to the halvening and probably a very illiquid pool of people able to move the price that far that fast. So I'm not really leaning toward an alt season. Clearly, we do see a bottom in Bitcoin dominance around 62% right as altcoins start declining. So it might still be a little bit of a, an early phase to this, and someone could call alt season right now, and they might be right. I just personally am not ready to call alt season just yet. But Bitcoin dominance being as low as it is was certainly one of the factors that come into play. And the next thing is going to be when some of these more name brand, I guess by definition, maybe it's on. Ethereum is performing very well. I believe we're up probably 100% in a relatively short period of time. Obviously not in a day, which is what I'd expect in alt season, but we are seeing some of those steep altcoin moves to the upside. So Bitcoin dominance where it is indicative of near alt season type behavior, but I want to see like the coins that were popular in 2017, 2018 start popping. I don't want to be a shitcoin shiller here, but some of the markers are going to be things like probably Verge, probably Sidecoin, some of those like smaller like fractions of a penny coin that go up quickly. ADA, stuff like that. Those are going to be the small corner of the market coins that I'm looking for that are still known by traders like me who might have had experience with them back in 2017. Those are going to be the coins that I'm really paying attention to for an alt season to be official.
And in sort of just generally looking at alts while we're there, any particular ones you're looking at? I mean, you mentioned ETH's performance recently, but are there any other of the top alts that you see as really significant at the moment?
Yeah, a quick look at ETH. I mean, pretty steep move, 8.7 move to the downside, but ETH is way overperforming Bitcoin. I mean, this is a very different bullish crossover structure, but we're still maybe it's still a week and a half. It's really hard to tell with the very slight movement of these angles. But between the intermediate term 125 and the long term 200 simple moving averages on the daily, a little bit. I need a little bit more confirmation to say, hey, this is a week away, a week and a half, 2 weeks away. But we definitely have a very strong bullish crossover coming. Ethereum has cleared the gap. Here's Bitcoin's 5200 crossover. So we did have a pullback, 7.52% move, followed by a much lower low, a reversal hammer, some upside action, a bearish engulfing, and now the market's again in price discovery mode. So ETH is looking okay. I'm not really going to change anything. This is looking more like a channel than it is like a breakdown structure. But taking a look at something like XRP, which I love to pop my head in from time to time, really seems like it's capped out in the 33-cent range. Maybe BitMEX did a lot of damage to XRP because that flash crash seems to have had some downside moves, post-apocalypse there. We're following a 7.8% downside move on a short, a very short wick to the upside, high of 28.1 cents, and a low in this candle of 27.2 cents. So I mean, it's not a huge move just yet, but I'm not happy if I was an XRP bag holder to be seeing a wick up this high, early into the day, and a rejection of that already. So XRP certainly has potential to go down. I don't think that, as much as I can't wait for the day to say this thing's going to zero, I think that this thing is probably going to come back to test some support levels if it isn't already testing a support area. So I would say I'm neutral on XRP. I could make a bullish argument saying that this is the previous consolidation zone. We're just doing the same thing over again. Or I could say this thing is right on its way to test this 200-day moving average in the 25-cent range, and I could very, very easily sleep on that.
All right, certainly important questions to be asked about where that market is headed, what the future holds. I guess we'll have to, for now, hold our breath in this roller coaster and see if we're headed up or further down. In the meantime, Joe Saz, I want to thank you so much joining us in a special episode from Las Vegas, Nevada. Have a great time there, Joe. Don't gamble too much on the markets or the tables. And in the meantime, stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.